We have an update on Randy Orton, and it is not good. In fact, it is fair to ask the question if we will ever see Randy Orton back in the ring again. Now, Randy Orton has not wrestled a match since the May 20th episode of SmackDown, where he and Matt Riddle lost the Raw Tag Team titles to the Usos in a unification match. He had been dealing with a bad back for a while. It took everything he had just to get through that one match. He had been working through the injury for some time, and it just got progressively worse. And there were plans at one point for Randy Orton to challenge Roman Reigns at SummerSlam this year. That obviously never happened. WWE was very concerned that he might require surgery, which would have sidelined him for the rest of the year. He never had the surgery, but he was trying to rehab the injury with rest. That did not work. And according to a report from Fightful Select, Orton underwent fusion surgery on his lower back recently. Dave Meltzer says the date of the surgery was November 14th, so 2 weeks ago. That was the same day that his wife posted a photo on Instagram of him in the hospital, either going into or coming out of an operation of some kind. So any hope of Randy Orton being back in time for the Royal Rumble or being back in time for WrestleMania is out the window. But it's more serious than that. I mean, that's major surgery to have. Now, I personally don't think that we have seen the last of Randy Orton in a wrestling ring, but this could be a career-ending injury. And if it's not career-ending, what kind of career is he going to have now going forward? I think his full-time days are over. Maybe he only wrestles the occasional big match here and there. I don't even think he knows the answer to that yet. He only just went under the knife. He doesn't know how he's going to feel in 6 months or a year. But it's tough, when you are someone whose signature move, the move that you're known for, requires you to take a back bump every time you hit it. I mean, it's such an easy move. You can hit it on anyone, no matter how big they are. But you don't really stop and think about the toll that takes night in and night out on your lower back. Orton got so much out of doing so little in the ring. He works smart, as I've heard wrestlers say. He works smart. He worked a safe style, but he's still out there taking bumps for 20 years and landing on his back with that RKO every single night. Look at Hulk Hogan. Barely ever left his feet. The man didn't exactly work strong style, but he was dropping that leg every single night, 280 pounds, landing on his ass and his spine. Sometimes 400 days a year with the time zone difference between Japan and the States. That's according to the Hulkster himself. 10 back surgeries later, the man can barely walk. He's all crippled up. Still keeps his upper body in great shape, but he's paying the price for all those leg drops and all those bumps. You can be the safest, lightest worker in the world, never come off the top rope, never do a dive, never worked a hardcore style like Mick Foley, and still end up getting your knees replaced, your hips replaced, your spine or your back fused, because the human body was not built to take the kind of abuse that pro wrestlers take. Over a 20 or 30-year career, eventually it catches up with you. Someone like Ric Flair, 73 years old, the man is a freak of nature. He broke his back in a plane crash over 40 years ago, and then went on to have the kind of career that he did. Think of how many thousands of hours that he has logged inside the ring. He moves around better than most wrestlers his age. Chris Jericho is 50. He's still out there taking bumps and moving around really well. The only serious injury he's ever had in his 30-plus years was a broken arm, and that happened in Smoky Mountain in 1994. People like him, people like Kane, somehow they've managed to avoid any real significant injuries. And Kane's a big guy. You think on a big guy like that, the knees are the first thing to go. Look at the kind of career that Kane had. He had like one torn tricep or bicep or something in 2002. That's the only major injury I can think of him ever having. So there are exceptions. But Randy Orton is paying a price that many wrestlers unfortunately pay in their careers, and it comes after one of the hottest runs of his entire career, teaming with Riddle and doing the RK Bro stuff. That RK Bro run is going to go down as one of Randy Orton's best. I don't put it above the Legend Killer stuff that he did, but it's up there. Riddle brought out a side of Randy Orton that we have never seen before. Orton looked like he was having the time of his life out there, and he's admitted that. He has said as much. RK Bro was the hottest thing on Monday Night Raw, and I think it did just as much good for Matt Riddle as it did for Randy Orton because it showed Vince McMahon that this guy can get over and he can hang at a main event level. Now that his feud with Seth Rollins is over, Riddle, he won the finale in the fight pit, but Rollins is the one who, up until last night, was holding a championship. Seth Rollins was the one with a match at Survivor Series last night. Did you see Matt Riddle on the card last night? Because I didn't. Now he's out there banging bongos on TV and tagging with Elias. Believe me, nobody is more disappointed about this Randy Orton news than Matt Riddle. It was only back in April that Orton celebrated 20 years in WWE. He was never the flashiest guy. He was never the most exciting to watch, but his shit always looked good. He was smooth in the ring. His promos, I don't think were the greatest, but Orton was a top guy for a good chunk of those 20 years. But he was never the guy because he got big at the same time that John Cena got big, and John Cena is the one who they went with. Cena was the one they trusted. Orton was more polished in the ring than Cena was, but Cena was the superstar they were looking for. Orton always felt like he was playing second fiddle with, maybe one or two exceptions. That period where he was punting everybody in the skull. Remember, he punted Vince McMahon in the head. He gave Stephanie an RKO. He kissed Stephanie while Triple H was cuffed to the ropes and couldn't do anything but watch. There was a period the year after that also, after the Legacy split, where Orton, the fans basically turned him babyface, and he felt like the biggest star in the business for a few months. So there were periods like that if you look back on his career, but there was never any Randy Orton era like you would have with other big names. He's held every championship, every major accolade there is to hold. It's not like there's anything left that he absolutely has to do. But when I talked about him in April, I pointed out, he's only 42, so he still has many more years left to go. That was before I knew just how bad his back was. And I had pitched the idea of doing John Cena against Randy Orton for the first time ever at a WrestleMania. Do it at WrestleMania 40 in 2024. Cena has 16 world titles. He's only one away from breaking Ric Flair's phony record. Randy Orton is at 14. You could have gotten Orton a little bit closer, and then you could have had a battle for number 17 at WrestleMania one last time between John Cena and Randy Orton. That would have been an attraction. I always thought there was a better chance that Orton would get there before Cena does. That looks a lot less likely now. But if Randy Orton decided to hang it up after this, if he feels like I'm done, I can't go anymore, or the doctors say you really shouldn't get back in the ring, the guy's already a Hall of Famer. He's not a Mount Rushmore guy for me, but he has already cemented his legacy. He doesn't have anything left to prove.